Pain. That's the only adjective that can correctly describe the housing market for buyers over the last 3 years. Summer after summer, the story has remained disappointing. In 2020, people were shocked to see prices rise as the world shut down around them. In 2021, nobody could believe their eyes as prices accelerated even further. In 2022, as most called for a crash after a surprise jump in mortgage rates and a correction in the stock market, home prices somehow managed to stay relatively calm. And this year, in 2023, the pain has turned to tolerance as most market participants are giving up on the idea of a crash. Maybe there was never a bubble to begin with. In today's video, we answer honestly and look into who will eventually be right, bears or bulls. As a quick recap of this year, we began in January thinking that 2023 was going to be a bloodbath. Home prices were in the middle of a severe reversal, and there was growing concern from many experts that maybe this was it. After years of bubble-like behavior, maybe the market was in need of a severe correction, and during this downfall, we'd experience a spiral of sorts where prices begin to fall with no floor in sight. And now, nearly 8 months later, we can say with confidence that this was not the case. In most markets throughout the United States, prices went up even further. According to Redfin's own data, the median price of a single-family home in the US reached $383,000, which is slightly below last year's peak, but not much of a difference. In fact, as you are about to see when we look towards the future, this number will likely grow even bigger. To describe what has happened is simple. Buyers have defined expectations, continuing to buy even as prices reach near record numbers. Home payments are at their highest level ever, and despite this fact, demand has stayed strong enough to support a truly wild reality that financially challenges nearly every single potential buyer. Now the question is, will this change? And I'm sorry to say this, but outside of a truly unheard of event, home prices won't be relaxing anytime soon. The number one stat that we can look at to confirm this is right here. This is the median price of homes newly in contract, and it's data collected by Mike Simonson of Altos Research. See, while we can look at median prices from Redfin or even Fed data, these statistics are relatively outdated. If you're currently buying a home, you know what I mean by this. When you see a house get listed on Zillow as an example, you'll first see it turn red once it's bought with the label of pending or contingent. Now, because of the way data collection works, this sale of a particular home can take months to register in various databases. You have to think, from offer to closing to how long it takes the county auditor to record the sale price, it's a process that can literally take as much as 90 days. So a lot of this data that we see from median prices is outdated. But Altos Research has this unique report that shows you the price of homes that are under contract, essentially acting as a leading indicator. Last year, we saw how in June and September there was obvious drop-offs following spikes in the interest rate, but this year we don't really see the same type of decline. Pending prices are higher than last year at this time, and given the recent good news regarding inflation data, it's becoming less and less likely that we see interest rate shocks. So if there won't be a continued acceleration in interest rates and our economy stays relatively strong as it seems to be doing despite calls for a recession, then what will bring this market down? A crash is especially hard to envision when you see the inventory numbers. Right now, according to Altos data, we are at 470,000 single-family homes, which is well below the historical pre-2020 average. In fact, since about early June, we are down year over year, and there is no evidence to suggest that this line will rise above the 2022 one. It stayed pretty flat despite the fact that around this time of year, we should be seeing a seasonal bump up towards the upside. The inventory gap year over year is now growing larger by the day, which is very bad news for prices. And remember, this is happening despite the fact that mortgage rates are touching 7%. In simple terms, there just isn't enough houses for sale, and we don't foresee these numbers suddenly rising in the near future. Inventory tends to peak in the summer, specifically at the end of July, yet this year we've had a complete 180. Inventory actually peaked on January 1st, and as we look forward to the rest of the year, it's beginning to look like that may be the peak for the entire year. If sales increase going into the fall as it's predicted, that can only mean one thing, and it's stronger prices. Now, of course, in the comments, I'm sure I'll hear a few arguments regarding this topic, the main one being an incoming wave of foreclosures. And I wanted to take a minute just to talk about this. Foreclosures right now are actually very low. They're rising slightly, but it's not anything that could profoundly change the inventory situation over the next year. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that foreclosures do dramatically increase as the economy gets worse from here, which is a big question mark in itself. Even if this scenario were to play out, we still wouldn't really feel the effects for years. For example, in a relatively efficient state like Ohio, the foreclosure process takes forever. In a lot of cases, it takes over 2 years to complete the cycle, starting from the moment you miss payment to the moment the house ends up on the market. So with that said, even if there was a dramatic uptick in unemployment and economic ruin, the housing market wouldn't really get an inventory bump until 2025. However, bears do have other ideas. They think there are multiple ways you can get an influx of houses, and one of them is the so-called Airbnb bubble. Nick Gorelli, who you guys are probably familiar with, had that viral tweet about revenues being down 50% in some markets. To him and many others, this was going to be the next crash catalyst. These conditions were going to lead to some sort of massive dump of short-term rental properties, but this is yet another theory that I'm very skeptical of. And the main problem is the data itself. The numbers are from a company called All the Rooms, and this company specializes in short-term rental data. Now, there are competitors in this space, one of which is AirDNA. Jamie Lane took AirDNA data and replicated the Gorelli findings, and what he saw is that yes, there has been a small decline in revenues per listing, but it's nowhere near the drops reported by the original Gorelli tweet. Ultimately, if you're comparing revenues taken as a 3-month average from May 2022, what you're gonna get is a massive US bias. In the spring of 2022, we know that was really the first spring season where people truly felt open to travel, and because the rest of the world was still a big question mark, a lot of people jumped at the opportunity to travel domestically here in the US, which obviously led to some pretty big US revenue numbers. Now, in 2023, people are traveling once again, but more so focusing on international travel, which is understandable given 3 years of avoidance. This is causing some declines in the US Airbnb market, but to suggest a massive panic is a bit overdone. US airport traffic has returned to pre-2020 levels, hotel prices are up, hotel stocks are up, Airbnb stock is up, and I just have a hard time seeing this panic unfold. If this 50% drop was true, we'd be seeing some sort of bump in inventory in a lot of these cities, and that's simply not the case. Either way, my point is that over the next few months going into 2024, prices are likely going to stay stable. There won't be a great crash, as the various factors I outlined earlier indicate a stable real estate environment. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and if you're facing difficulty finding a home, please consider heading over to foreclosure.com with the link in the description. Foreclosure.com can help you find some of the best deals available today by targeting distressed properties such as bank-owned homes, government foreclosures, pre-foreclosure listings, and foreclosure auctions. Whether you're looking for a single-family condo, home, townhouse, or mobile home near you, Foreclosure.com provides the most up-to-date listings of all property types. Please check out the link below.